Hey guys, it's Yorkie here with some Assetto Corsa multiplayer gameplay, and this week we are going to be doing a GT3 race around the Nurburgring. As you can see, I'm in a BMW Z4 GT3, currently just at the pre-race setup screen basically. You just saw the qualifying results there, and that's me just adjusting my fuel load ready for the race. And as you saw, hopefully, I qualified in second. Although the guy in first did go a fair bit quicker than myself, and obviously I am aiming to try and take him down into turn 1, try and get a good start, and then hopefully try and hold him up so he doesn't disappear off into the distance. So here are the 5 lights, just holding the revs and then dropping the car up into first, managing the wheel spin and getting a decent launch actually. Although we're about equal pace with the McLaren up ahead, and also the Z4 behind me is having a little bit of a look. We're all tucking into the slipstream and we're all pulling out now down into turn 1. Having a look down the inside, going pretty much almost 3 wide, giving the Z4 a little bit of room on the inside there. And I managed to slip up quite nicely into first. I think the McLaren is a little bit generous with the amount of room that he gave us both. He probably could have squeezed me over at least a little bit further to the right. But either way, now just got to try and be nice and smooth, take my usual racing line, keep my momentum up, and that's exactly what I do. As he had a little bit of a look down the inside there into turn 4, but obviously with the line that I was taking and the momentum that I was carrying at the time, kind of basically completely shut the door on him. So this is giving me a little bit of a breathing room and a little bit of space to the Z4 and that McLaren behind. As you can see, we've pulled off into the distance. There's a little bit of, I believe, a little bit of contact coming down into turn 1. There's a couple of cars going into turn 1 backwards and in there sideways, so that would have obviously held up the rest of the guys behind, like P4 onwards. So at the moment it's kind of a 3-horse race, and as you can see, developing a gap to P2 behind me, knowing that the McLaren is faster than the both of us, yet both of us jumping him into turn 1 has really given me a great opportunity to try and basically apply the pressure to that McLaren by trying to build as big a gap as possible, ready for when he does eventually manage to pass the Z4. So that's exactly what I'm doing now, basically just trying to apply the pressure to him, dictating the pace of the race, really trying to take control of it, and basically pushing hard. I would have said about 90% at the moment. I'm not pushing the full 100% qualifying lap, because obviously I don't want to make a mistake and throw it all away. So pushing hard, but making sure that I'm hitting my braking zones, and then just, or maybe braking ever so slightly earlier, but just carrying the speed into each and every corner, making sure I'm hooking up those apexes. So here we go, coming down into turn 1, hooking that up very, very nicely indeed. That Z4 is still ahead of that McLaren, which is absolutely perfect at this stage. Basically you just need to continue to push and build this gap, really control the pace, and basically what you're meant to aim to do at this point when you've got the lead of the race is try and eke out a gap and basically try and force your opponents, the other drivers, to really push to catch you. And when they really push, that puts them closer to the limit of their driving ability and could potentially mean that they make a mistake. So if you can do that, it'll basically just make your life a lot easier in the lead, as you're the one who's taking it fairly easy. I had a slight moment there coming through the Schumacher S's, but managing to hold that quite nicely with a quick flick of opposite lock. Just trying to keep the flow of the car up. Nice smooth arcs, nice flowing line at the moment. So really try and maximise the strengths of this car, as it is absolutely fantastic in accelerating and coming down the straights, kind of top end. As it looks like there's a bit of contact there in the rearview mirror between P2 and P3. And if you just take a quick note of the names down at the bottom there, that was when at the start of the second lap. So Bell was in the Z4, PET, Pat, as we'll call him for the moment, was in the McLaren, and he slipped up into P2, so he's gained a place there. I'm not entirely sure what happened exactly, he is only 2 seconds behind, getting a little bit of oversteer coming into the apex of turn 1. Hadn't quite got the car slowed down fully, and the rear end just stepping and sliding out. You can hear the tyres really squealing coming through these corners as I'm now trying to push a little bit harder than I was before, knowing that the McLaren has now got past that Z4. So I know that over the next few laps he's going to start closing me down. So yeah, I need a push and try and maintain a gap if possible, as we're quite early on to the race as well. There's only 3 laps in. Well, this is the 3rd lap in, should I say. We've got 10 laps in total, so we've got about another 6.5 to go, which gives him ample opportunity really to close the gap, especially if he's a good at least a second a lap quicker than I am around this track, to close up a gap and then really push to try and get past. So yeah, pushing a little bit harder than I was before, but still I want to nail every single apex. I still want to be clean. I don't want to apply too much pressure to myself and basically force myself into an error, because that would just completely just chuck away everything that I'd been doing right up until that point. So just trying to be smooth, nailing the braking zones, hooking up the 2 apexes of the chicane beautifully. A little bit of oversteer on the exit, but you do get that in that chicane. It is really quite bumpy, especially through the second part. It does like to unsettle the car, especially when you come onto the gas relatively hard as well. It will kick out that rear end and you will have to give it a little bit of counter steer to keep it in check. And as you can see, the gap has already been reduced by a fairly significant amount, around about a second. He's getting pretty close actually, coming into the braking zone of turn 1. He didn't hook up the apex quite as neatly as I did, but still he's managed to carry the momentum and speed. That McLaren is very, very good in the high and medium speed corners. The Z4 is actually pretty good in the lower speed corners and the acceleration, and kind of getting to the top end. The top end isn't quite as quick. The top speed isn't quite as quick as McLaren, as he gets very sideways in that rear view mirror coming through that corner, which is one of the traits of the McLaren actually. It does tend to get very, very loose if you're basically trail braking in the car, whereas the Z4 is a fair bit more stable in that department. And at the moment my eyes are in 2 places. They're obviously watching the road ahead, like he should be, but they're also watching that rear view mirror just to see how much he is closing corner by corner, sector by sector, lap by lap. And obviously the splits down at the bottom there, although they do only update lap by lap, they don't update like live or sector by sector. That's also a good telling sign of just how much he is closing the gap. And he has already reduced the gap down from 2 seconds down to 1 point something seconds there. So yeah, just trying to manage the pace as much as possible, and he has gotten very, very close in the last couple of corners. And as you'll notice over the next couple of laps, that is where his real strengths are, especially over mine. He is very, very good through that last chicane. He's getting very close indeed into that first turn. And as he got so close, I'm guessing he got a little bit worried that he was going to go into the back of me. So usually when you do that, and you're closing quite significantly, you just keep the car straight so you can keep maximising the braking power. Obviously the car in front of you will also turn into the corner, which obviously then gives you breathing room in front, and he now moves out the way. And that's exactly what happened there. He basically just kept going straight. Made himself run a little bit deep, but as you can see, through this section, these relatively medium speed sweeping corners, the McLaren really comes into its own and it's closed out the gap quite significantly. He's only a couple of car lengths behind. Obviously downforce doesn't really affect the GT cars all that much. It does a little bit, but obviously they're nowhere near as much as F1 or open wheel cars, so they can they can run a lot closer to each other and still push, not having to worry about understeer or anything else like that. And as you can see, we've now got a back marker up ahead, and I am praying to God that he is going to get out of the way, which is exactly what he does. It's absolutely fantastic. It's what we like to see out of any lap cars. Just gets clean out the way and just leaves the leaders to battle out squarely and fairly, as not everyone recognises that as I take too much of the sausage cover. It's just completely compromised me coming down into the final turn. Moved over ever so slightly just to defend that inside line. Now I'm going to hold it tight just so he can't perform an undercut and basically just shallow out the steering coming out through the exit and try and maximise my own acceleration. This is where the Z4 is ever so slightly better than McLaren. They do start to pull away. The way he's in the slipstream, he's basically nullifying that effect. So going very defensive down into turn 1. He's now alongside me. He's on the outside. There he goes. Trying to manage and trying to slip round the outside. He's there on the inside and he just about manages to back out of it as I squeeze him ever so slightly onto the inside there. So things are going to get very tough in the next couple of laps, as he is going to be getting some good runs onto me out of that final corner and down into the first turn, and I'm going to have to really plan my defensive moves, place the car perfectly and basically force him to try and go around the outside of me as much as possible, try and really defend this first place. So he's had a little bit of a rough couple of laps, and a gap has eked out ever so slightly, but it's nothing too big. This is where he'll close. He's very good. Well, the McLaren is very good for these corners, but as long as I keep it flat and have a nice smooth line, I can negate most of that effect, which is exactly what I do. Just trying to use full width of the track. Trying to get a good run coming out of this corner, downhill, down into this right-hand kink, and then up towards the chicane where we know he is very good. So let's watch the rearview mirror here, coming into the chicane, just to see how he's doing it. So we're braking about the right time. He takes an awful lot of the first curve and kind of jumps the second, but the McLaren seems so very stable doing it, whereas my car didn't really feel too comfortable. He's taking a very wide line, trying to straight line the exit a little bit and give himself a good run down into turn 1. There is a little bit of a gap here. It's not too bad, but I'm going to move over ever so slightly just in case, because as you can see he is very good on the brakes. He manages to close that gap, but that's kind of just a Constantino effect, but that's going to compromise him slightly coming out of the exit of turn 1 and into turn 2. Just trying to... Oh, there's a little bit of contact there, but he has backed out of it. He's going to let me slip back up into P1. What I was trying to do there was trying to hug the inside line and prevent him from undercutting. So I stayed off the throttle a little bit longer than I would have usually, just to keep the car in tighter. He kind of recognised that, but probably expected me to jump on the gas a little bit earlier, and there was a tiny little bit of contact there. But he gave the position back, so that was pretty fair. I've also got a little bit of a gap as well, has kind of come out of that too. So pushing time. Hooking up this hairpin very nicely indeed. You probably noticed I've been taking you'd probably say it's an odd line going into that corner, but for me it's actually a very good line. You brake quite late, you run a very early first apex, and you run ever so very slightly deeper into the corner. You keep off the gas and bring the car tight again, and then basically floor it out the exit. So it basically allows you to brake later and straight line the exit and get a good run out of it. Plus it also means anyone who's trying to have a look down the inside can't really do it because you're already moving over. So wanting to nail this chicane again, still not quite as good as that McLaren behind me. Coming into the final corner, he's a little bit close again, and as you can see he's trying to straight line that exit. So I'm going to try and maximise the speed, running the curve a little bit too much and the car bouncing ever so slightly, which is going to compromise me down into turn 1. So we're going to move to cover that inside line just so he doesn't dive bomb me. He's not braking as hard as he has been in the past, and he's now trying to perform an undercut. So I'm basically just trying to carry the speed. I've got the inside line coming into this turn 2 now, and again I'm just going to keep the car tight, and again keep the car tight through this corner as well, and just basically carrying the speed, just blocking him from performing that undercut. Again, about an equal run coming out of turn 4, but he is pretty close coming down into turn 5, so need to brake fairly late, kind of carry that speed coming in, which I do quite nicely. And then again, coming through here, that time he sat quite close. Hooked up to the apex a fair bit better than he did though, and has given me a tiny bit of breathing room, as he did run a little bit wide through the exit curb and dip the wheels onto the grass, I believe, coming out for the exit of that corner. And really putting on an awful lot of lock to try and keep the car tight in. And no, that's horrible, coming through that Schumacher S, as you can see, lifted ever so slightly, and that's given him a great opportunity coming down into this left-hander, moving to the inside just to cover him off, dropping down another gear just to keep it tight on the exit, just in case he does try and hang around the outside, but he does back out of that. And that's giving me a horrible run through there. You can really feel the pressure starting to be applied, and kind of having to go defensive in a couple of places is compromising me coming through other corners. We've only got a couple of laps left. This is lap 8. We've got a back marker in front of us, dropping down into second just to try and, you know, keep the revs up. He's sat right behind me now, so I need to find a way past him. And as you can see, closing on him through the final turn, getting about an equal run coming out the exit, and I'm in the slipstream, but the McLaren's also in my slipstream as well. What I've done here is moved across early. I want to force him to the outside, and I basically aggressively use that back marker to prevent him from mounting an attack. And this is what I've done, but my run through that first corner wasn't great, and now it's given him a good opportunity to close up again. Again, keeping it very tight upon the exit, just trying to shut that door from him, which he does recognise this time, gone a little bit deep, which does allow him to slip up the inside. So I'm going to take it fairly slow coming through here, which is going to give him a great opportunity coming down towards turn 5. My exit wasn't great. He's now coming up along my outside, defending this inside line quite heavily, just about managing to keep it too wide through there. That's absolutely fantastic driving by him, giving me just about enough room to stay on the inside. The car did slide ever so very slightly, so I was still holding onto the brakes a little bit, but didn't understeer too much. As you can see, the car is starting to struggle now with the grip. The fuel load getting very low, as you can see, with the fuel warning light up in the top left there, and obviously pushing quite hard. It's not doing much for the tyres. He's having the odd little look here and there, and initially I thought I'd got away with being baited by that one, but not quite. It compromised me ever so slightly. He's got a really good run at me now. He's sat in the slipstream. He's moving to the inside. Gonna have to give him room coming down that inside on that right hand kink there. He's now side by side, and now it's just a case of me braking later so I can get this apex, which is exactly what I managed to do. Squeeze him ever so very slightly, but giving just enough room. There's contact there. That was kind of half my fault, half his. I probably should have given him a little bit more room, but he does back out of it and gives me P1 again. But he is going to have a good run coming into here, as I took a really weird line coming into the final corner. So he's got a good run now coming down into the final lap, coming down into turn 1, starting to move across. Obviously I want to defend that inside line, as I have been doing for the previous 4 or 5 laps, braking as late as possible, running a little bit deep. Now he's got the undercut on me quite nicely, and that has allowed him to slip up. I'm going to go fairly aggressive slightly on the inside, but he's already too far ahead and gives me plenty of room, but manages to keep the momentum and the flow going in his car to retain first place. So the pressure is now on him. I am going to push like crazy, pressurise him into making a mistake. I want this first place back. Obviously I haven't got much longer to do it in, and I'm just trying to plan as to where I can do it. If I get a decent run out of here and he gets sideways like he does, I had too much understeer coming out through the exit of that corner. I was going to try and mount a challenge into this hairpin, but that was a little bit unfortunate. I think I got a little bit too over-eager seeing him go sideways. So my next real opportunity is basically coming down into the chicane and also the final corner, and possibly out of the final corner itself. if I get a decent enough run out of that and down the start finish straight, I may be able to maximise the car's acceleration. But it's not an amazingly long run down towards the line. We've got a back marker up ahead which could work in my favour if he does block. You're fucking kidding me. Yes, I've run out of fuel. Ladies and gentlemen, I've run out of fuel in the dying stages of the last lap, which is really not good, and as you can see the speed is bleeding off a little bit too much for me to be able to get up this hill and even make it to the start finish line. So I am unfortunately going to have to pull off to the side of the race and finish it here, retire. There goes P3, he's now just slipped up into P2. And I am absolutely gutted, as you can tell by the head movements, because my god was the adrenaline pumping throughout the duration of that race, especially through the latter stages. And for that to happen, and to just try and maintain myself and let the adrenaline just rush out without getting too annoyed was really quite tough. I think I saw the lighter side of it though, and actually looking back, I did take a little bit too little fuel on board considering how hard I was pushing. I went for 11.1 laps. I probably should have gone for a high 11 in my fuel load, but yes, unfortunately that is how this video is going to end. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because that was absolutely phenomenal for me. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please leave a rating for the video, and yeah, I shall hopefully see you soon. Take care.